Hello everybody, I'm Kat and welcome to Kat's Corner, where today we are discussing Queen of Air and Darkness by Miss Cassandra Clare. This is the third and final book in the Dark Artifices trilogy. This trilogy is my personal favorite by Cassandra Clare. Is it her best trilogy? That's debatable. The Infernal Devices is probably a stronger trilogy, but this trilogy just holds a special place in my heart. I love the characters in this trilogy. I love the setting. I love this trilogy so much. But this book in particular, I have a lot of feelings about. I finished it this morning, so I'm still reeling and processing all these feelings. I want Magnus to put a spell on me to stop these feelings because they are very confusing and I can't deal with them. So that's why I'm filming this video. This video will probably be a mess. Let me talk about some non-spoilery things and then we're gonna get into the spoiler section. My thoughts for this book, like I said before, are all over the place. I am confused, angry, happy, all at the same time. It's a weird feeling. This book took me over a month to read. It took me 5 weeks to read, just over a month. I don't want to say it's the longest it took me to read a Cassandra Clare book, but in retrospect it took me like exactly a month to read Lord of Shadows, and I think it took me like 3 weeks to read Lady Midnight. But this book is huge. It's almost 900 pages. I think Lord of Shadows was exactly 700 pages, and Lady Midnight is like 650 or something like that. One of the things that Cassie usually does in her books is she usually goes back and reminds you of everything that happened in the previous books. Like with Lady Midnight, she goes into so much detail talking about what happened in City of Heavenly Fire, and in Lord of Shadows, she goes into a great amount of detail talking about what happened in Lady Midnight. And I actually planned on rereading Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows before this book came out. I started rereading Lady Midnight last July, and I got like 200 pages in, and I never picked it back up. I do plan on rereading Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows and filming reviews for both of those. I went into it thinking, you know, it's Cassie. She will remind me what happened in Lord of Shadows. I won't need to reread these two books before jumping into this. I started reading this book on Kindle at midnight when it came out. I just remember thinking, oh my god, I've forgotten these books. Did I actually even read them? It was kind of funny, like looking back on it now, but I literally forgot so much that happened in Lord of Shadows that like it made me question if I even read the book. I have a soft spot in my heart for all of the characters in this series. I'm so excited for the Wicked Powers because the younger Blackthorns are now going to be older and it's going to follow their story more, and I'm so excited for it. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know what my favorite book is in the series because I have clearly forgotten the other 2 books. It's weird to say this, but I love them all equally. Even though I did give this book the lowest rating out of the trilogy, I love this trilogy so much just as a whole. This is probably my least favorite book, I guess, in the trilogy, but I still liked it. I'm gonna talk in more detail in the spoilers section. If you haven't read Cassie's other books alongside Queen of Air and Darkness, I will be mentioning some spoilers for her other books as well. Just a forewarning, please pick up these books. They are absolutely fantastic. Go pick it up. Bye non-spoilery people. Alright, let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. Okay, so something I started doing with this book is I actually started vlogging my reaction to certain parts of the book. So I figured I would throw those parts in. I don't know when I will do this. Probably now. Hey everyone, long time no vlog. Today is the day that Queen of Air and Darkness came out. It is Tuesday, December 4th. This is insane. This book is my most anticipated release of this year. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So I decided that I'm going to be vlogging my reading experience while I read this because this book I think is over 900 pages. I don't have the physical copy yet because Amazon hasn't sent it. Yay, Amazon. I have my Kindle. I've been reading it on my Kindle today. I've read the first chapter already. I'm very emotional. Cassandra Clare has ripped my heart out and stepped on it. And we're only on chapter 1. Sorry for the low quality, by the way. I'm filming this segment on my phone because my camera died. I've been in a huge reading slump. Hopefully this will help me get out of it. We will see. I will update you as I read. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be so fun. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. I bet I'll be crying by the next clip. Hey everyone. It is day 2 of me reading Lord of Shadows. It is the day after it came out. I'm now only on chapter 3. We're making progress. I actually don't know how far I am into chapter 3 right now because I'm reading this on my Kindle. It's rough. I know I'm 7% through the book. Amazon still hasn't delivered the book, so we out here doing our best. What did Magnus do to Juliet? He did that thing with the blue flames, you know? Excuse you. He did that thing with the blue flames, and now I'm genuinely worried. Like, what did he do to my boy? Now Julian's acting weird, and it's like, what is happening? I don't know what's happening. Ugh. And like, Magnus just gave Emma a weird look, like, what? I am distressed. What did he do exactly? I feel like he kind of said what he did, but he didn't give us the details of what he did, you know? How am I supposed to know? I'm just a mortal, just a mundane. I'm really worried for Julian now. I just realized that in the last clip, I called Queen of Air and Darkness Lord of Shadows. Can you tell that this trilogy is my favorite trilogy of all time? Reading this book is so emotional. Lord of Shadows, I wasn't emotional reading that book. Even the last chapter, I was just more shook. But this book, I've already like almost cried in like 5 times. This book is like over 900 pages, I think. This is gonna be fun. Hey everyone, so it's been a while since I vlogged. I think the last time I vlogged was like December 5th. It's like currently January 9th. I am still reading this book, but I'm almost done. I want to cry so badly because the parabatai bond has been broken. Like, I'm actually legit tearing up. I love these kids so much. I love these characters so much. They are my precious babies and I love them. I filmed like 3 videos wearing this shirt. Okay, I need to finish this book. I have like 3 chapters left, or 2 chapters. I love them. I love them. Okay, bye. I wanted to originally vlog my experience reading this because I knew it would be insane reading this book. The beginning to me was very slow. They were all kind of grieving Livy and I forget, Alec's dad, Mr. Lightwood, the Inquisitor. I forget his name. I wished that part kind of sped up. Like, I wish we kind of had a prologue that would have been the opening 100 or so pages, and then we cut to Julian without feelings. And then we would have had like the mystery of Julian without feelings. Why doesn't he have feelings? That would have been so cool. But I think part of the issue is that we've already done our grieving as readers. Like, if you read Lord of Shadows back when it came out in May 2017, you've already done your grieving for Livy and for Robert Lightwood. I remembered. See, I did read this book. But you've already done your grieving for them. Now as readers, a year and a half has passed. We want to know what happens after. And this book literally picks up right where Lord of Shadows ends. That was one of the issues I had with it because I thought I remembered Lord of Shadows well, and apparently I didn't. I forgot the whole thing about the mortal sword. I just remembered the 2 deaths. I'm going to reread Lord of Shadows. I have to. Right from the get-go, I was dropped in. It made me question everything. Throughout the beginning, I missed the old Julian. I missed him so much. My love for Julian Blackthorn truly grew in Lord of Shadows. That's when I was like, I love you. We see this new Julian who doesn't have feelings. I just missed Julian. One of the things I kept doing, I kept thinking, when are we gonna get to Fairy? I wasn't spoiled at all for this book and I'm grateful for it. I just had this feeling that we were going to go to Fairy. Fairy was one of my favorite parts of Lord of Shadows. I loved spending time there. And literally throughout the beginning part when everyone was grieving, I was literally like, so when are we getting to Fairy now? And we got to Fairy. I was right. I think I may set down this book because it's like really heavy. This is my notebook, by the way. I hated Horace and Zara so much. They are horrible people, horrible beings, but I loved how real they were. They were so realistic. I know that sounds weird, like I love them but I hate them. I loved how real they were, but I just hated them as characters. Okay, the Medallions. What are they? Why does Christina have one? Where did they come from? Who were the other families that had them? Did the Carstairs have one? Did the Herondales have one? Did the Fairchilds have one? Will we learn more about them? I haven't read Ghosts of the Shadow Market yet, just so you know. If stuff is explained there, I will eventually read those books. So we got to Fairy, and I love Fairy. I don't know why. Fairy has a special place in my heart. It was my favorite part of Lord of Shadows. Was it my favorite part of this book? Who's to say? I didn't like the fact that Julian hid his deal with the Seelie Queen from Emma. Like, it was so not Julian-like. When the Queen said that they had to break the Parabatai rune using the mortal sword, I was like, why does Cassie make everything impossible for these characters? The mortal sword just broke, but they needed to break the Parabatai bond, and it's like, ugh. now like the stakes have been risen. And then we have what I like to call the Shadowhunter road trip to the Unseelie Court. The sword appears in Emma's hand. It's like related to Cortana. That was never fully explained and it's never brought up again. And I just want to know why. Like, why did that happen? Why was it never mentioned again? I don't get it. We finally see Jason Clary again. It was great. One of the issues I had with this particular book was it wasn't as funny as Cassandra Clare's other books. Rereading the first 200 pages of Lady Midnight, I was laughing so hard. It was so funny. There was more humor in those 200 pages in Lady Midnight than there was in this entire 880 page book. I'm being serious, and that was one of the things that I missed in this book. I missed Cassandra Clare's sense of humor. The battle at the Unseelie Court was so intense. It was so good. I loved that battle. The fact that Ash is related to Sebastian and the Seelie Queen. Why do we keep bringing Sebastian back? I don't like him. He's a horrible person. Why do people like him? Okay, he tried to rape his own sister. Why doesn't anyone remember that? I just don't get it. The hype around Sebastian, I can't wrap my brain around it. Why is Annabelle so attached to Ash? That's never explained. She cares for him like an insane mother would. She's like crazy. So one of the random funny things that I just couldn't wrap my brain around was the look of the Unseelie King, because he's described with like half a skull, half a human face. I could imagine like the other characters pretty well. I think the fan art inside the dust jacket of the book, that's pretty much how I imagined the characters, but I literally could not imagine the Unseelie King as anything else but the Scribblenauts King. That's who I pictured. It was kind of funny to me. I just couldn't take him seriously because my brain cells were projecting literally the Scribblenauts King whenever he appeared and talked. And then we get to Thule. When we first arrived in Thule, and Julian is kind of describing everything, and he's like, the ocean is black, the sky is dark, there's a red sun, the Santa Monica Pier was like decaying. My first initial thought was, finally, this is the Stranger Things Shadowhunter crossover I never knew I needed. They were in the Upside Down, and I was here for it. I was so excited. I was like, I'm gonna see my boy Julian kill the Demogorgon. I was so excited. Thule had so much potential for me. I was stopped very quickly when they noticed and darkened soldiers walking by, followed by none other than Sebastian Morgenstern. Why does Cassie keep bringing Sebastian back? I don't understand it. Can't he just die? Can't you just leave him to rot 6 feet under? I was fascinated by Thule, and I would love to explore the other worlds because now we know for sure that there are alternate dimensions that they can travel to, and it's kind of mentioned in City of Heavenly Fire, but it's not really mentioned like it is here, especially. I hated, however, how Thule was used to just bring back elements from City of Lost Souls and City of Heavenly Fire. Like, I just kept reading Thule thinking, I've read this before, because I have read this before, and it just bothered me. I really liked that Julian was back to his normal self in Thule, otherwise I would not be able to handle it. I was already kind of out of it with the fact that Sebastian was back and they had to like kill him again. Like, it was literally City of Heavenly Fire all over again. You know, if I wanted to reread City of Heavenly Fire, then I would have reread it, but I chose not to. I chose to read Queen of Air and Darkness instead. I was so worried though when Julian cut his arm. Please, Cassie, don't make this 13 Reasons Why. I love this boy so much. I would have been so sad. I was so worried there for a second. And finally, they get out of Thule with the mortal sword. Heck yeah. And now we're back to our usual programming. I loved how Julian brought everyone together for that meeting. Yes, Julian, go out there and contact people. You're doing amazing, sweetie. Honestly, I didn't really care about the whole Mark, Christina, Kieran love triangle. I don't know. I feel like Christina and Kieran's relationship wasn't really developed. Like, it kind of just happened in this book. Obviously with Mark and Christina, that has been developing since Lady Midnight, and obviously Mark and Kieran, that has been developing since before Lady Midnight. Christina and Kieran, it just kind of happened. Can we have some more development there at least? Otherwise, I didn't really care much for it. I was like, alright, moving on. However, I loved Kieran in this book. I hated him in Lady Midnight, and in Lord of Shadows, I just didn't care about him. I thought he was annoying, and he kept showing up. But in Queen of Air and Darkness, I loved him. I gained so much respect for him in this book. book, and he became one of my favorite characters in the series just from this book alone. I don't know why, but I now have a soft spot for Kieran. I'm gonna go on a rant here about the stupid title of this book because it's bugging the living daylights out of me. I absolutely hate it. One of my favorite parts about Cassandra Clare books is how the titles connect to the book. And so Queen of Air and Darkness. Why does Annabelle have 2 books named after her? Why? Okay? How did they come up with the name Queen of Air and Darkness anyway? Julian's like, oh yeah, Annabelle, and then Livy's like, oh, her? We call her the Queen of Air and Darkness. Like, how do you come up with a name like that quickly without any explanation? And why didn't Emma and Julian care about it? If someone were to go up to me and tell me that they call someone the Queen of Air and Darkness, I would be like, well, why would you call them that? You know? I don't understand. The giant part. I actually thought that part was pretty cool. It was very much like a nod to high fantasy, and I thought it was so powerful of Julian and Emma to use themselves and the curse as a weapon during battle. That was so cool, and I thought it was very powerful of them to do that. The explanation of how and why the Parabatai bond broke still kind of confused me. Like, I need to go back and reread that passage just to like clarify everything. Alec and Magnus's wedding. I love them. It was everything. It was perfect. I loved it so much. I hope we get to see more weddings in the future. I loved it so much. And I loved how it ended with everyone celebrating and being happy and reflecting on the past couple months of their lives. It was a perfect ending. And then we get to the epilogue. What? Dark Jace wants Clary, but wait, and Ash and the Seelie Queen, and what's happening here? The cliffhanger in this book was huge. It reminded me of the cliffhanger in Lady Midnight. Those 2 cliffhangers are very similar. It's not as big as a cliffhanger in Lord of Shadows, but it's big enough for me to be like, what is gonna happen? I'm terrified. I really wished that the relationship between Kit and Ty grew more, because I know that they're gonna be, I think, the lead couple in The Wicked Powers. We don't really get to see their relationship blossom as much in this book, and I really hoped we would see that. I really loved that they used celebrities for the Downworld registry. That made me laugh so hard. I loved that so much. It was so smart of them to do that. I'm just so excited for The Wicked Powers. I definitely need to reread Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows, especially now that the series is complete, and I do plan on making reviews for Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows as I reread them as well. Hopefully I will read them pretty soon. Hopefully it won't take me a month to reread Lord of Shadows. I'm very excited for The Last Hours. That's the spin-off to The Infernal Devices, and I'm very excited for that one as well. But yeah, those are all of my thoughts on Queen of Air and Darkness. Let me know down below some of your thoughts on it. I would love to know. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post videos every Thursday, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!